Order. It's August 14th, 2023. We're in the Aldermanic Chamber in City Hall, and it's Monday, August 14th, 2023 at 7:21 p.m. Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman John Sullivan.
I'm here on Zoom as I'm traveling for business. There's no one in the room with me, and I can hear you all.
Very good.
Okay.
Alderwoman at Large, Shauna Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman at Large, Laurie Wilkshire.
I'm here.
Alderman at Large, Michael O'Brien is present. And our chairman, Alderman Richard A. Dowd.
Present.
Okay, you have
We have a
one.
quorum.
Yes.
Also in attendance.
We have Mr. Tim Cummings, Administrative Services Director.
And
Okay, and Alderman Trish Clay.
And
Okay, Liz, I'm sorry, the last name, please? Hannum. Okay.
all right, I think we got everybody covered here. First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody that wishes to talk to anything that's on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on. Communications.
From Tim Cummings, Administrative Service Director. Reason discussion of the CHIPS Act and developing a partnership with BAE Systems.
What is that? And I'd like to recognize Administrative Service Director Tim Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, we can, if
Yes,
appropriate,
just bring
come
him
up.
up.
Great, thanks. If the BA team could join me.
I don't know if I should be insulted.
Yeah.
Okay. My feelings are a little hurt, but everybody crowds in over there.
Director Cummings, whenever you're ready, and introduce our guests.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bear with me for 1 second here. All right. And I'm just gonna share screen here, so folks who are participating via Zoom can see the presentation. Hopefully folks on Zoom can see the presentation that's now up on the screen. And so this is a presentation that will be given by BAE. So for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Administrative Services. And here with me this evening is the BAE leadership team that's going to be talking to you about their project and program that we would like to produce, if given the support by the city of Nashua and the federal government through the Commerce Department. Before I continue, I want to take a moment and also recognize Lucille Jordan, who's with us, President of the Nashua Community College. This is a partnership with BAE, but it's also a partnership with Nashua Community College, who will actually be producing the program and is integral to making it happen. And in fact, will probably be most likely the partner, the entity that the city of Nashua would be contracting with. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Yes, Mr.
Does she
Chairman.
want to come up as well?
Yeah, Lucille, do you want to join us? I think she could add some great detail about a program that she currently runs, that we modeled this particular program off of. So,
And Liz, we got a lot of seats if you want to join us instead of just sitting out there all by
I
yourself.
have plenty on this side. There's nothing left on that
This is
side.
one happy family, yes.
Now I feel loved.
and
Balance it out.
And so,
We just
Mr.
want to
Chairman,
look over this side.
this is actually, it's great that Director Hannum is joining us, because this is actually a legacy economic development project that I started prior to Liz joining, and she'll most likely be the one who transitioned to take it on as I continue to transition out of my economic development role and focus more on administrative services. But what happened was about 6 to 8 months ago, Tom Bishop, who's with me to my left, and I started to have a conversation about how we as a community could support BAE with a grant application that they would be putting forward. And so it was through multiple conversations where we started to just kind of spitball some ideas about how we might be able to make something happen, that we were able to culminate with the program and the project that I'm pretty proud of, that we have here before you now, where we're hoping that the city of Nashua will support. And so the mayor asked me to send his regrets. He couldn't be here this evening, but he actually was integral and instrumental in helping us shape this this program, because if the Board of Aldermen so chooses, we will need some legislation later on. I'll talk about that at the end. And it was the mayor's idea about how to use this money appropriately, actually, that came from the federal government, that will make this hopefully come to fruition. So I'll leave my comments here for right now, but I assume I'll add some additional closing comments at the end relative to how we might be able to see some next steps. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to hand it over to Tom Bishop.
All right.
Bishop?
Thank you very much for your time, Tim. Thanks very much for the introduction. I hope everybody can hear me. I'm Tom Bishop. I'm here on behalf of BAE Systems. I am joined by Monica Gilbert and James Lee, also from BAE Systems, but more specifically, they're from our Microelectronics Center. They're from our semiconductor foundry on Spitbrook Road. And so I'll defer to them on the technical questions, but I'm gonna walk through a few slides if that's all right. And please, since we're all up here with mics, please jump in with questions. This is a PDF, so I'll try to get the,
Nope.
okay, all right, very good.
It's not you, it's
Perfect. So I just have a few slides here, probably about 10 minutes of talk track. I don't want to take our presence in the area for granted, and so there's just a slide or two on BAE Systems itself. Right, BAE Systems Inc. is the US-based services provider to the Department of Defense. We are a top 10 prime contractor for DoD, about 32,000 employees in the US, and we operate under a special security agreement. That's basically what allows us to do the sensitive work that we do for the government. We have three large sectors within the business: intelligence and security, platforms and services, and electronic systems. And electronic systems is really what I'm going to talk to you about today.
I have no problem with you mentioning about BAE.
I'm trying to get this PDF centered here. There we go. Sorry, guys. So Electronic Systems is the business I think we all know here. It's headquartered in Nashua, New Hampshire. We have sites in the UK, but predominantly they're here, about 16,000 employees total. About 7,000 of them are in southern New Hampshire, and I'd have to guess that probably 3/4 of those are in the greater Nashua area. We have a very large campus on Spitbrook Road, and then I think everybody knows about the Canal Street facility. Most of the work in southern New Hampshire is defense related. Electronic warfare systems, optical EW systems, so systems like missile warning systems that protect rotary wing aircraft, all the way through guidance systems, data links, and that type of thing. Unlike the other sectors, we actually also have a large commercial business. If you have flown on a commercial aircraft anytime in the last few decades, you probably experienced a BAE Systems product. We build fly-by-wire systems that control the aircraft. We build digital engine controls. And then we also have a commercial transit business that specializes in low and no emission transit systems. There are 2 buses probably circulating the city right now that have BAE Systems products on board. So those are well known, the bus business is well known, and now as that business matures, a lot of those low and no carbon emission systems are actually being pushed onto ferry boats and other things. So kind of a fascinating business. So mostly defense here in southern New Hampshire, but a large commercial sector as well for electronic systems. I'll try to get this right. So most of the slides that we're going to talk to you about today are things that we have filtered and curated for you and typed up based on our experience, but we do have 2 slides here that are from the federal government, and the reason we put these in there on the CHIPS Act is because we didn't want to filter anything that we were going to tell you about the program, right? There was nothing we were going to tell you that we didn't sort of want you to read from the Department of Commerce itself. So I'm not going to go through this whole slide. I've sent this presentation into the city you're more than welcome to view it. But the goal of the CHIPS Act, I think most of you probably followed it through since it was legislation, is to strengthen the security and resilience of the semiconductor supply chain. And that's fundamentally what we do on Spitbrook Road. We've been doing it for decades. And so the Department of Commerce in particular has a carve out for national security interests. We do a little bit of commercial work at the foundry on Spitbrook Road, but it is mostly defense. And so we fit very nicely with all these bullet points here above, and more specifically in the CHIPS Act, we fit in this national security interest carve out for the type of work we do.
So these slides will be made part of the minutes and will go to all the aldermen.
Okay, perfect. And so, this is the objective of the CHIPS Act incentive program, and we were applying for a grant under this because, again, in our application, we feel like we sort of tick all these boxes, all these bullets. This is the most stressful part of this whole thing. There we go. So as Tim mentioned, we have been going through the application process for a few months now. Tim, are you better at this? Oh, there we go. So Tim mentioned this is not brand new. We have been going through the application process for a few months. We obviously saw the CHIPS Act when it was a piece of legislation moving through Congress, right? The New Hampshire delegation has been very supportive of the CHIPS Act legislation. And so we have a lot of experience here. And when this stuff actually came out in the spring, that's when we formed a team that began to put together an application under the CHIPS Act. And I will say that the interaction with the federal government has been fantastic. It's very clear that Commerce wants this to succeed. We've submitted our pre-application. We've gotten some good feedback on that. And we're aiming to do a final application under the CHIPS Act in the first week of September. But overall, we've been meeting all the milestones. Nothing but good feedback so far on this grant application. And sort of fingers crossed, we feel like we're going to be successful at this point, based on what we know about the application process. So this is a picture of the foundry on Spitbrook Road. And I'll take this time to say any of you are welcome to come in. Anybody sitting up here now is more than welcome to stop by. We can start over at headquarters and talk about the programs that the company works on, and then we can walk 100 yards across the parking lot, and we can go into the foundry, and we're happy to walk you through the life cycle of all the things that take place in the foundry. We have a fabrication facility in there. We have a manufacturing floor space. And again, anytime you want to ask questions about the mech, Monica and James are next to me, but basically we're a DoD trusted foundry. And if you sort of start on one end and move to the other, we are effectively growing the chips, right? We're building the chips. We're moving them through the process. They're being inspected, and then basically from the wafers, you need to cut them apart, right? So we're cutting them, we're dicing them, we're inspecting them, we're picking them, we're packaging them. It's the whole life cycle. And so some of those are going to stay sort of in-house for some of our programs, F-35, that type of thing. Some of them are going to go out, some of them are for commercial usage. And then on the bottom right, you'll see the total project value. And this is really the core of the CHIPS Act. So just as a company, we're constantly upgrading our facilities. When I got here a few years ago, we were in the middle of a $100 million ramp to rate effort. That was really around the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. But we're constantly upgrading our facilities. So in the background, there's a steady investment. So there's $50 million roughly over 5 years that we're going to put into the foundry anyway as part of our modernization project. And then you can see that second bullet, the CHIPS Act, ideally if we win, would add $36 million over the next 5 years. And the goal is for someone like Monica, who has a 10-year plan, to be able to take all those things out to the right past 5 years or other things and slide them in, which is the goal of the CHIPS Act, right? Accelerate, modernize, resilience, onshore. And so again, we feel pretty confident in our application. So just a few more slides, but we're really getting to the core of why the CHIPS Act grant is important and why we're applying for it. And that's the benefits of a modernized foundry, right? So we're doing that anyway. We're looking to accelerate it. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but it's really three things. So by definition, if we're going to modernize, right, and accelerate and expand the capacity, we're going to be hiring. That goes to the class I'm going to talk about on the next slide, but we're going to be increasing our workforce on Spitbrook Road. It's a good thing for the country because we're also increasing our current capacity by 300%. So the wafers, the thing you see in that picture right there, we're increasing our capacity for those as well. And then, frankly, just something that kind of just makes sense intuitively, we're overhauling HVAC, we're doing electrical work, right? This is something that, many people are gonna go into regionally and do this work, like they always have. This is the second to last slide here. This is really the culmination of what we're talking about for our purposes here, which is our relationship with the Nashua Community College and the class we're hoping to start if we win the grant. So this all comes from the fact that to win a grant under the CHIPS Act, you need partnerships at the state and local level. And one of the things that they told us, they being the US government, explicitly they didn't want to see for partnerships was sort of dollar offerings. They didn't want to see tax abatements, right? They didn't want to see sort of typical incentives. They wanted to see spillover benefits. They wanted to see regional impact. And so one of the things we came up with was, if we're going to modernize the foundry, we're going to need more folks to work in the foundry. We should start up another class with the Nashua Community College where we've already had success. So we have a long history with NCC. Thankfully, Lucille is here and can answer questions, I think, if you'd like. But what we're doing is we're going to model this class under the CHIPS Act under a class we already have. So we're thinking an 8 to 10 week training program at NCC. Students are guaranteed an interview at the company. That's the biggest part of this, is if you come to the community college, you're guaranteed an interview. I'm gonna go off the talk track here. I'm a product of community college. I went to, it was called technical college at the time, but I went to my technical college and got my EMT license at the time. There was nobody guaranteeing me a job at the time. So this is a fantastic offering. Usually if you're walking around our facility, roughly week 7 or 8 of the 10 weeks, you'll see the students in the cohort taking a tour, right? If you want to work here or not, and I'll get to that in a second. But we're looking to do another class. It's a clean room skills familiarity class that's highly applicable to the work we do. So imagine people sort of, in a clean room, full bunny suit, right? That type of thing. The type of work that happens in there is the class we're looking to do. We think the cost of the class to sort of fully outfit the class and start it up is about $200,000. We know this because that's roughly the amount of money that it cost us to start our very first class, the Microelectronics Boot Camp. And so we view that as a ceiling on this class. We don't think, with efficiencies and sort of learning about what's happened, it would cost that entire, but that's the ceiling. And this is all based on our current Microelectronics Boot Camp. We're on our 28th cohort at NCC. We have a 98% job placement rate for this class, for those who complete the class. And it's fantastic. I went to the graduation, the most recent graduation, and just as an aside, so we used to hire 100% of the students who came out of this class. And that was when we were the only ones who knew about the class. The last graduation I was at, I think there were 4 other employers there. And so as Lucille's gotten the word out about the skills that these folks are learning, other employers are coming in and picking them up. And so we used to hire, again, 100% of the graduates. I think we only hire 50 or 60% of the graduates because somebody comes in and says, hey, do you want to work here instead? And so it's a great story. It's been a great program. And there's a student there at a workbench. That's what it looks like. So I just have one closing piece, and it's really sort of the wrap up of what I mentioned on the program itself, and that we are looking for the support of the city as we pursue this grant. And part of the reason is it is a requirement of the grant to have partnerships at the state and local level. And so we're moving through the process. It's been very positive. We think we're in good shape. But your endorsement, the city's endorsement, would go a long way to helping us secure that grant, and then we would effectively start this class at NCC. So thank you for letting me go there. We are more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Or does it go back?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
So just a couple additional closing comments. As Tom referenced, this is a grant program run through Commerce Department. Commerce requires participation by both state and local governments in some sort of fashion for an incentive. It was through conversations with Tom and his team very early on that we started to conceptualize this idea. It really is an add-on to the original microelectronics program that's run out at NCC. The reason why I think the city of Nashua should be particularly interested in this is because, yes, this will benefit BAE if a student elects to go and work there, but it's skills that we will be giving a workforce that will make them attractive to other industries as well. I'd be detrimental in not pointing out that life sciences, pharma, medical device, all use clean room type technology. And so as I hope all the students do eventually go work at BAE, if they elect to go work somewhere else, we are giving them the tools to be successful. So in talking with the mayor very early on about how we might be able to partner and make this come to fruition, the mayor very insightfully pointed out that we received ARPA funds a little while back and we had some money sitting aside. And my recommendation would be is to transfer some money that we have setting aside right now that we don't necessarily need and put it towards this program. This is something that would be completely eligible through the ARPA program if we were to do it this way. It would take legislation to transfer the monies. We would come back before you for an official meeting once that legislation's filed, but I wanted to come here this evening, have this conversation with you all, see what your questions may be, see how we may be able to perfect this legislation if we go in this direction, and then ultimately look to file it for your next Board of Aldermen meeting. To be able to do this though, and to stay in lockstep with BAE's timeline, something the mayor, I believe, was going to offer, and want to make sure everyone knows this for the record, is a non-binding letter of support to accompany the grant package, and it would outline what we were going to endeavor to do. By no means would it make any firm commitments, but it would essentially be another voice to the package to show that we are trying to make this a reality here in Nashua for not just BAE, but actually for the workforce at large that could benefit from this program. So, Ms. Chairman, I'm going to wrap my comments there, but Lucille did come out this evening, and I was hoping she might be able to say a few words, particularly about the microelectronics program, which is the precursor to what we're talking about here now.
That's what I was going to suggest before you started talking. Lucille?
Thank you for the opportunity to do so and to have this discussion. The microelectronics bootcamp, as Tim had referenced, began with some investment from BAE. After that, the college took it on. And it has been very successful. It has transformed lives. We have students, and many of them, I would say, not just BAE, but companies within Nashua employ these individuals. We have had students who are couch surfers, students who are homeless. And I would invite any of you to come to our graduations. The students earn a living, and then we had a husband and wife turn around and after being homeless for 2 years buy a house. And so buy a house here in Nashua. For them to then start to be part of the economic workforce here in Nashua is significant. And we have looked at the many students, over 300 students that have gone through this program. Tuition has not been an issue, and even more so, the state's commitment is none of the students who attend this will pay tuition. And the tuition's between $5,000 and $6,000 for the students because we have to keep the classes small to have the appropriate instruction so that, you know, the students are learning at a very fast pace. And so I think that in doing this, it would not only make a difference for the students, but it's going to make a difference for us in the city and the workforce, and to attract new businesses here to the city of Nashua. And I think when they see that success rate, it's out there. That's why businesses come to us now, because of the microelectronics bootcamp. And I will add something, that robots cannot do this. This is something that's so finite that it has to be a human being to do it. And I think it's the same with the semiconductor. That is also, it's not something that a robot can do. So the significant job security for these individuals. Also, the other thing that happens is that we also give college credit. So the students then, after they complete it, we can give them college credit for those who want to go forward into our engineering program. We have one of the only, there are two only in our state, other than the four-year institutions, that have what's called the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval for engineering, the ABET accreditation. And that actually is for students transferring, whether it be to UMass Lowell or UNH, that gets them from our engineering program to that without missing a beat, full transfer, they can get done in another 2 years. We have had 3 students who have gone through the microelectronics boot camp, 2 who actually live in Nashua, who have completed their engineering degree this year, their baccalaureate degree. So to see the outcomes of this is significant. That investment is significant for those students. But we have turned, once we got started with the 200,000, a little less than that from BAE, we were able to take it on. We had the equipment and all the other things that we do. And again, the state's commitment, because of state legislation that we have received, anyone going into a certified or certificate program will have free tuition. So once the investment's made, it's not a worry about the students having to pay for that.
Excellent. So I'm going to open it up to the aldermen for questions in a minute, but I can tell you that if we have an opportunity to take the tour, those of you that have not been inside BAE to see what they do, it would be very amazing. Just a visit of the lobby in South Nashua will show you all the systems that they've built over the years and still build. Are you going to want a motion from us to support this without mentioning the funding, where it's going to come from? We'll do that at the end.
Thank you.
Not now.
You want to do it
No.
before to open discussion?
Oh, yeah, we can do it. You do it that way.
All right.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized for a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion to enter into developing a partnership with BAE Systems on the project known as the CHIPS Act.
And/or Nashua Community College.
Oh, and NCC, on Nashua Community College.
All right. Questions for, oh, we have good, Alderman Sullivan first. You want to click him in? You don't have the mouse.
I don't have the mouse.
He's good. He should be able to participate.
Go ahead, John.
Okay. Thank you very much. Great presentation. I would absolutely jump on the opportunity to tour BAE Systems and the new facility that you have over on Spitbrook. And if, since I'm not there, I just wanted to make sure I got the name correct. It's Mr. Bishop, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You had mentioned some numbers in your presentation, and I'm wondering if you could put those into context. Specifically, you mentioned that that facility will produce 2,400 wafers a year. First part of my question is, will those chips only be used for DoD purposes, since they are manufactured through BAE Systems, or will they go out into the general economy? Because as we know, everything is controlled by chips today. And then my other question is, you had mentioned that the workforce would grow by 300%. If you could also put some numbers to that as well. I mean, what does that represent? What does a 300% increase look like in terms of hard numbers? Thank you.
Monica,
So I can take.
can you introduce yourself first?
Hi, Monica Gilbert from BAE. I'm the Microelectronics Engineering Director. I'm overseeing this expansion. Our workforce will increase by 12%. We have put in the plan to hire X number of people every year to work directly in the foundry itself for this program. And we are expanding our capacity to 2,400 wafers a year. And in doing so, 85% of that will be BAE chips. The rest are under our foundry services. And we have foundry services for a very select few commercial companies. And we provide wafers. We don't do their designs, we don't do anything, it's just wafers. So that's how the split is right now.
Yeah, and apologies if I flip those numbers, I'm happy to share the presentation, but it was 12% on the workforce and 300% on the capacity.
Got it, okay, sorry for,
No,
I
it's
misunderstood that.
No, that's okay.
But just a general comment, I think it's great that we're looking ahead to onshore this capability for our supply chain. I think it's vital to our national interest, not only to defend the country, but to keep the country up and running. So, 100%, I support this. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we still using the, we protect those who protect us?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it is on the last slide, yes. We protect those who protect us, and then we also, I don't know if it was, so we innovate for those who move the world, which is our commercial mission for the buses and avions.
Any other questions? Alderman Wilshire.
Not so much a question, but sign me up for the tour, sign me up for the legislation. Thank you for what you're doing. I think this is incredible, and it's a great partnership with the community college as well. Did you say it was an 8 to 10 week course?
Yes,
Okay.
8 to 10 weeks. They have an advisor. It's unique because John Mason, who runs the program now, would also do this one as well. I mean, students have barriers, and John has been amazing. He finds ways to make sure we still hold the student accountable, but to get them to the classes. And sometimes it's babysitting. It could be their car ran out of gas. He'll go pick them up. And I mean, and they get advising as well. So we wrap around services to make sure when they graduate, they're confident and they can proceed forward. I also would invite you anytime to come to the college. I could give you a schedule when we have the classes running, a new class is about to start up, and talk to the students and hear their stories and see why they're committed and they have decided to enter into this program.
Thank
Other
you.
questions? Are you also, Shoshana?
Alderman
Alderman Kelly.
I don't know if anyone's ever called me by my first name in the chat. Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. I think that this is an incredible opportunity for the city. I like that we are looking at education in a different way. And, you know, when I grew up, it was very much you went to a four-year college and that's it. And this is an opportunity to train a skilled workforce without having to burden them with such a large tuition. And I congratulate everyone on the success of the MEC. So my only caveat to be the long-term thinker here is I am interested in how we as a city and potentially with community partnerships can continue to invest in workforce housing, because housing is an issue that we have right now. So if you're gonna grow your workforce by 12%, I want them to stay in Nashua.
Agreed, absolutely, agreed.
So, awesome, thank you.
Other questions? Alderman Lee?
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I'm sorry, can I just quickly outline a protocol? I think, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
Tours, I'd ask folks, if you want to do a tour, please let me know. I want to make sure I coordinate it. We have to follow, as you all know, 91A protocol. So just to ensure that we do that appropriately, I will work with BAE and Tom and his team to make sure things get scheduled out. So I heard Alderman Sullivan and Alderwoman Wilshire make that explicitly clear. If someone else is interested, let me know.
Director Cummings, I think we need to let the entire board have the opportunity.
I will send an email out
Can
to
do
the
that.
to the entire board, and then we can facilitate and make sure we do this appropriately. That's what I was gonna say. We'll probably have to do a few. And then relative to legislation, I've heard a few folks mention wanting to sponsor the legislation, and so if you do have an interest in that, please just let me know. Mr. Chairman, I see Alderman Sullivan.
Oh, I had Alderman Clee first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. I think I missed it. How many students would go through this program?
Well, so there's typically, there's 12 so I think there's 12 in a cohort, but when we started, I could get you the numbers, it was much smaller. So when we first start these classes, they're much smaller. I want to say it was, 6 or 8, and then it was 10, and then it was, and frankly, during COVID, it was much smaller. But a full cohort for a fully running class at NCC for us is a dozen students at a time. And we're on our 28th cohort for that particular one.
may I just have a
Follow-up?
couple follow-ups, yeah. The first question is, and 98, I mean, I think 100% of them get an interview.
Yes.
And did you say something like 98% of them are
Uh,
hired, or did I
yeah,
hear that
yeah.
right? Wow.
Yes, for those who complete the class, and that sounds like it's a little bit of a loaded term if you complete the class, but even those, you know, even those who choose to not complete, it's like in the high 90s, right? So, you know, most of them complete the class. Most of them, if they complete the class, get a job. And now the stat is, most of them, or half of them, look elsewhere. So it used to be we would hire 100% of them, and now it's 50 to 60% because I don't necessarily want to say all the names, but I remember last graduation, Microassembly was there, and they were hiring, you know, 2 or 3 folks. There are others.
Just-
Follow-up question?
Yeah, thank you. I too am a product of a community college, and it helps, the beginning one. Did you say something to the nature of that, because of the legislation that have been put through over the past couple of years through the state, that this is a free program?
It will be. We just were, in our state budget, we were
Right.
given dollars to provide free tuition in workforce development and non-credit work that leads to a job or certificate. Can't be like basket weaving, right? And so, and I do think that, and that's state, and I also believe that the state also has dollars to put towards it. But right now, the tuition the students would not have to pay. This next group that's coming through the cohort for microelectronics will not have to pay tuition. We've had very few students. We're very resourceful. We have found ways through the WEAR Act, through a whole host of ways in which students have not had to pay tuition. The biggest hurdle they have, which we've been able to help them in some ways through some of the foundation work that we have, is getting to the class, right? Every student who, whether you're a credit or non-credit student, receive a ID, and that automatically gives them the free bus pass in Nashua.
Right.
So our students access that. I think we still have the highest ridership in the city. And we will continue to do that because that gets them there, because transportation is always the challenge for many of those students.
And we're having those conversations at the state level with the BEA as well.
Good, I love this program. I think it's phenomenal, so thank you.
Great, thanks.
Alderman Sullivan, did you have a follow-up, or your hand was still up?
I do, thank you. More to the representative from NCC, you answered the question about tuition. It looks like a lot of this is going to be free for the students, and I think you mentioned it was about a $5,000 to $6,000 tuition bill for that. In order to keep up with the demand, do we need to reach in to the high school level to build that pipeline to make sure that boot camp is full for each cohort, or what's your experience been?
Absolutely. To build the pipeline, I think it's very important. I work very closely with the superintendent of schools. He's on my advisory board. As a matter of fact, we have just formed a joint advisory board for cybersecurity. We want Nashua to be the center for cybersecurity. My faculty work with their faculty, so it's going to be, and then we'll pull in Rivier down the road on that one, so that we can address that workforce and be the center for cybersecurity. So it is absolutely building that pipeline. I was just speaking actually to our chancellor today. Some people in this room might remember when we had Project Lead the Way for engineering, and it was very, very costly. We had a lot of engineering students coming to the community college and then transferring into the university system. This is another way in which we can do it, offering those students some dual enrollment, so that they can then move forward and take it, or do it in the summertime. Some of those pieces we have to work through, of course, on age, and then for BAE and some of the other companies, obviously it's going to be security and those other pieces, but we have to build that pipeline with the high school. And I think when they know, the other thing about students and why I think our boot camps are very successful, we have another one in soldering as well, is because it's short term. Because you have to remember, this whole time they're not earning a living, right? They're getting other state support, most all of them are, but they're still not earning a living. A lot of the 21-year-old guys that are coming in and couch surfing and maybe living, we have 2 living in their car, and they use our locker room, which is fine for, you know, getting themselves all ready for the next day. But that piece for those students, you know, to be able to then move forward, so that, you know, having that free tuition but other resources for them. So that pipeline is essential. I think if we can do summer, at least maybe even give them a half in their junior year, so that then when they graduate their senior year, they only have to do half. So it's changing the modules, changing how we do it. But yeah, we have to build that pipeline.
Yeah, Alderman, we also use a program called First Robotics. I don't know
Yes,
if anybody's-
that's a good one.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you're familiar with First Robotics or First Lego, I think we're the largest corporate
Yes, you
sponsor, because it's just an incredible program for us. And if you go to a First competition, you'll just see our employees everywhere. They're usually mentoring a team. So First is typically how we go through the high school programming, getting them thinking about the company.
Just to remind people to give their name again when. Yes, Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, because I heard in a previous question, one that had been rolling around in my head. So the 200,000 is a one-time fund. After that, it is self-sustaining?
Yes,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
Any other questions?
And I will add too, when we talk about the high schools and we talk about the changing demographics, we also have significant ESL support. And so we do significant work. We've had a number of ESL students come through our program, and they have significant support throughout. And we do market our Latinx community quite strongly for these programs.
Okay. So, if there are no more questions, obviously I fully support this program. And I think that anybody that takes the tour will be amazed. And I think Monica can, when you do the tour, can show you that these chips have so much electronics on them, it'll amaze you. I was talking to Tom earlier about the fact that, you know, on our EW systems, you know, the modules are very tiny, but we also work in the environment of Humvee and other motorized vehicles out in Detroit, and the modules are huge. But anyway, so they do a number of things, number of programs, but I just want to point out that I think, you know, it's phenomenal process and the clean rooms and the things they do, and you're supporting systems that save our sailors' lives, sailors, airmen, and Army people. You know, that's why that motto, we protect those who protect us. And a lot of the things that BAE is involved in are leading edge, cutting edge. And a lot of people don't actually get to know what all the things they do. So, great company. Just FYI, I worked there 33 years and I'm retired from BAE. And I'm still a consultant to BAE. I'm not doing anything at the moment, so no conflicts there. And National Community College is in one of the best wards in the entire city. Mine.
Excuse me.
So, the motion on the floor is to fully support BAE and National Community College with the CHIPS program initiative.
Roll call.
There's no further discussion. It has to be a roll call. Yes. That would be you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to make sure I did have it cleaned up, the motion is enter into development of a partnership with BAE Systems and National Community College on the project known as the CHIPS Act. Okay, clerk will now call the roll. Alderman John Sullivan,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Shoshana Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien votes yea. Chairman Alderman Richard A. Dowd.
Yes.
You have 5 yeas.
And the motion passes, and we'll push this on to the full board. Also, I'll sponsor the legislation as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
That's what they think anyway.
Can you get through?
See you soon, Tom. Yeah.
Thank you.
continuing on with a meeting, unfinished business,
There is none.
new business resolutions,
There are none.
new business ordinances.
There is none.
We won't be covering anything tabled in committee. General discussion? No one? Public comment? There's no public, so no public comment. Remarks by Alderman?
I just have one, just to remind members and the public, PEDC tomorrow has been canceled. So we'll be rescheduling to another date. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman O'Brien, a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Motion on the floor is to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Alderman John Sullivan,
Yes?
Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Laurie Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman at Large Michael O'Brien votes yea, and Alderman Richard Dow.
Yes,
You have 5 yeas.
we're adjourned at 8:07 PM. Thank you, everyone.